Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? You know who's with me.
What up, guys?
So, today's video is Dungeon Masters tips, but in this case, we're going to be covering the notes for the Dungeon Masters in the module B2 Keep on the Borderlands. And um, from this perspective of the video, I'm actually just going to do cover the first edition of Keep on the Borderland, but I highly recommend getting Goodman's games. This is the first original Adventures Reincarnated they did. So it was intro. It's called Intro into the Borderland, and it has B1 and B2. So I have two players who have been through this adventure already. One of them has been through the entire thing and knows the main villain and all that. Second one only got through partially, so I'm going to be dropping this into my homebrew world. So I'm going to be changing up a lot of the uh, locations. Even the map style is going to be different a little bit. And in this case, they have the keep, but in my homebrew world, it's going to be called the Citadel, and there's going to be a history behind the Citadel and why I think I'm going to call it the Last Citadel, and they're going to learn the history of why it's called that. So um, this is also helpful for DMs who have this situation where they need to reskin a module because they've had several players in the group, and I'm gonna go over that. Eric's gonna be joining me on the first startup on the videos because this information, especially notes for the dungeon master, you don't get this anymore. They only put it in the box sets, and so I thought it'd be a great way to help new DMs learn how to be a DM. And so through these adventures, because these were all the notes that every now and then I will still go back and look over. Have you had a chance to look at any of these old school modules like that, Eric?
Not really, because I know you like to run them, so I haven't really looked at. I haven't even looked at Temple, just in
Cool, cool,
case.
cool. Yeah. All right. So we are on a record, so we're actually getting in 3 videos tonight. So I told Eric after he did part 10 and 11. I said, don't worry about this last video. It's going to be, I'm going to be the one reading it and you're going to be commenting and then we're going to discuss about it. So, notes for the Dungeon Master. This is what they hit you at the very beginning. They give you the introduction, which I've already done a video on. And the next part they have for the DM is notes for the Dungeon Master, which I wish they would do in 5e. So, without further ado, here we go. The basic instruction book for Dungeons and Dragons game has given you the information necessary to understand this game and start play. The module is a tool. It is a scenario setting which will help you to understand the fine art of being a dungeon master as you introduce your group of players to your own fantasy world. That's very important. Your interpretation of the many worlds of Dungeons and Dragons adventures, the Keep on the Borderland, is simply offered for your use as a oh man, it, the word should have been as a vehicle to move smoothly and rapidly into your own special continuing adventures or campaigns. I thought I had put that in there because I was editing it. Dang it. All right.
Hashtag proofread.
Yep. Read read the module thoroughly. You will notice that the details are left in your hands. This will allow you to personalize the scenario and suit it to what you and your players will find most enjoyable. So, one of the biggest knocks of early first edition Dungeons and Dragons was you only got like, I don't know, like anywhere between, in some cases, like 12 to 20 pages. And you, as a DM, were just given just like the skeleton, and that was it. And that's what Gygax intent was always that I'm just going to give you a layout, make sure you have some maps, give you some instructions so you can make this into your own world. Look how he stated that. This is for your fantasy world, your interpretation. So that's why I kind of like get really upset when people start criticizing like first edition modules because I'm like, do you even know the content of what you're criticizing? Because once you explain that to me that you know that, then I'll take your criticisms more valid. Agree or disagree, Eric?
Oh, I got some criticism.
Get the hell out of here. This is the shortest video. We'll catch you later, folks. I'm going to do the rest by
Hi, folks. This
myself.
is a 5-minute video. This is a teaser video for my solo videos coming up next.
All right. So we're going to discuss that. All right. So they also have in there the player character suggested line. They don't say that. That's just how I summon up. This is my personal summary of this paragraph. The module has been designed to allow 6 to 9 player characters of first level to play out many adventures, gradually working up to second or third level experience in the process. The group is assumed to have at least one magic user and one cleric in it. If you have fewer than 6 players, be sure to arrange for them to get both advice and help from the keep. For example, they should have advice from a friendly individual to stay near the beginning of the ravine area and enter the lower caves first. You can hear that in a tavern or somebody who finds out that you're going to go exploring. Um, to avoid their getting into immediate trouble with higher level monsters. Likewise, the service of several men at arms, always higher, must be available to smaller parties if only 2 or 3 players. And that too should have been TOW. Hashtag editing.
That's tough.
Player characters are to adventure. Be sure to have one non-player character or two to go along, as well as a few men at arms. In addition, give the player characters a magic dagger or some magic arrow and at least one potion of healing. Family bequests to aid them in finding their fame and fortune when they go against chaos. So, um, how do you like that advice so far for a new DM?
It's good. It's gonna be interesting because I'm just thinking in the aspects of us having 4 players,
No,
and-
no.
right? I'm
It's
like,
different though, and
I might need that henchman.
it's different because back then they did not have the skill and powers and abilities that first level characters have now. Like mages have cantrips that can do offensive damage. You didn't have that
Yeah,
in
they
first
have all
edition.
that.
So that's why
Yep.
they made the suggestion. But you can still learn from this, which is another thing I'm hoping that people will enjoy with this series.
Mhm.
All right. Encouraging players to hire men at arms. So, the DM should be
For the
careful
devil.
to give the player characters a reasonable chance to survive. If your players tend to be rash and unthinking, it might be better to allow them to have a few men at arms accompanying them, even if the party is large, and they don't attempt to hire such mercenaries. Like, maybe somebody wants to find something and it goes, I'm going to have these men go with you, and hopefully we can rescue some prisoners, something like that,
Mhm.
where they can help the characters. Hopefully, they will learn quickly that the monsters here will work together and attack intelligently, if able.
Oh.
If this lesson is not learned, all that can be done is to allow the chips to fall where they may. Dead characters cannot be dead characters cannot be brought back to life here. That is
Really?
brutal, and that was
Well, you're
first
dead. You're
edition.
dead.
Yeah, that was first edition. That's why you had backup characters already.
Huh?
Um, the keep is your guide to build your society. Um, Using the keep as a home base, your players should be able to have quite a few adventures, playing sessions before they exhaust all the possibilities of the Caves of Chaos map. If they played well, their characters will have certainly advanced a level or two in experience within the last minion of darkness falls before their might. While your players will have advanced in their understanding and ability, you will likewise have increased your skill as a DM. In fact, before they finish all the adventure areas of this module, it is likely that you have begun to add your own separate maps to the setting. The keep is only a small section of the world. You must build the town and terrain which surrounds it. You must shape the societies, create the kingdom, populate the countryside with men and monsters. The keep is a microcosm, a world in miniature. Within its walls, your players will find out what is basically a small village with a social order and meet opponents of sort. Outside lies the ways to the caves of chaos, where monsters abound. As you build the campaign setting, you can use this module as a guide. So before Eric, I ask you a question. Um, this was another complaint about this module. They go, it's a sandbox. You're just
Hmm.
you're stuck in this one little map area. And I was like, since when? You've got
Right?
four different
Nobody's stopping you. It's
directions.
not Ravenloft.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. It's like, yeah, it's not Ravenloft, where you are stuck in there. Um, Up north is all forest, and then you build how far that forest goes and what it leads into.
Hmm.
To the
Yeah.
west is where your characters come in from. You have to determine where they came from. To the east is another road. So there's a road that goes from the west to the east. To the south, there is a river that also flows west. It goes from the east, I want to say, to the southwest going down. South beyond that is the river is a swamp. Beyond the swamp is a forest, which ends. It only ends because they wanted you to build out your world starting with this adventure. This was a
Yeah.
guide. And so a lot of criticism is a sandbox, and I was like, I don't see a sandbox when I start reading the notes for the
They call
DM.
it a sandbox because they're too lazy to bake up their own stuff.
So,
There's
just
only
right here,
sand.
when I was rereading this, it's been a while since I've reread this first part. Because normally when I play the adventure, I skip all this and I just get into whatever I want to do with the adventure. And I was reading
Uh,
this and I was like, man, this is great advice that all DMs should just listen to because while most of us know it, sometimes we forget little things here and there. And I'm hoping this
mm,
series of adventure of this series of videos will help you become a better DM and appreciate this module for what it was. It deserves to be in like the top 10 for this reason. At least top 5 for like starting modules. All right. Building your world
oh
beyond
snap!
the adventure. There's a reason why I had to show this in here. Humankind and its allies have established strongholds, whether fortresses or organized countries where the player characters will base themselves, interact with society, and occasionally encounter foes of one sort or another. Surrounding these strongholds are lands which may be hostile. I had to look to see if my mic was on because I had to see the white light. I was like,
I
"Oh my god! All this time I haven't been speaking." Uh,
gotta repeat all
okay,
this.
we'll do it next week, Eric. May be hostile to bold adventurers. Perhaps there are areas of the wilderness filled with dangerous creatures, or maybe the neighborhood area in a land where chaos and evil rule. For wilderness adventure, see Dungeons and Dragons Expert Set. There are natural obstacles to consider, such as mountains, marshes, deserts, and there can also be magical barriers, protections, and portals. Anything you can imagine could be part of your world if you so desire. The challenge to your imagination is to make a world which brings ultimate in fabulous, doesn't say it like that, but and fantastic
Fabulous.
adventure to your players. A world which they may believe in. So, you ever have the expert set?
Yes, that's the blue one, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So
Sitting
I
out in
had
my
that
garage right
set.
now.
Got it for Christmas. I glanced through it and said, I play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and just lifted up my nose to it. I still read it. It was cool,
Wow.
but we
And then
didn't
he
put.
went to go mock people for having a Chiron mount for a level 10 paladin on his elitist way.
Uh, so I mean it was cool, but it just like those rules didn't go
Yeah,
with
it
what
was
I was
really weird.
playing. Like I'm already full in from this point on. The only thing I had from basic was
There's
the
no going back.
yeah was the blue box, and after that, now I had the player's handbook, the monster manual, dungeon master's guide, all these adventures. Um, so I had about maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6, something like that. And so
Mm.
yeah, this was different. This is a whole new set of rules, not new, but an expansion to those players. Um, who didn't want to leave the basic set. They liked that set. So in Adventures and Dragons, there was a small sect that said
Well, I
no.
have my friend Mark, who he writes these modules. He makes a ton of money. He writes them for that first edition stuff.
Hmm.
He write and he, there is still a huge market for it.
Oh yeah, people love that basic set.
Yep.
It's just that.
He made that's what he makes his adventures for.
All right. So session zero. That term was later named, but your first session zero is located here in the notes for the Dungeon Master. MB2. Become familiar with the module. Then make whatever additions or changes you feel are necessary for your campaign. Once you are satisfied, gather the players together and have them create their characters. This will take some time, so at first don't plan on getting much playing done unless there's a lot of time available. Session 0. After each person has rolled a number for their characteristics, strengths, intelligence, etc., select a class and find out how much money he or she must begin. You should instruct them to the setting by reading the background section to them. If you wish, feel free to limit the classes your players may choose as suits your
I
setting. So this is your session 0. You might wish not to have elves or halflings in the keep,
mean, that
or
wish
might
gods or
not want to
minotaurs to
have
be in your campaign.
yeah, or might not want to have any thieves as the beginning characters. It's all up to you as a
Interesting.
DM to decide the shape of your campaign. Likewise, you can opt to give player characters a special item of equipment to begin with. Excuse me. Possibly
Oh.
mules, a weapon. Some trade
Oh
goods.
yeah, I love me a
Eric's
horsey.
Eric's henchmen, or
Yeah.
virtually anything of small value. In parentheses within. So there you go.
In
First
reason,
session 0.
everything is reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. So so far I'm like reading through this. I'm like, this is really cool, man. I gotta have Eric on this video while we go through all this. All right. So preparing your social encounters. Um,
Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
it doesn't say that. Anything you see on the top and the title is just me paraphrasing. I know I said that before, but just in case. After you've explained the background, allow your players to begin to interact with their characters. Give them time to wander around the keep, learning what is there, finding the limits of their freedom, which is very important because they can't just go wandering around everywhere they want. And meeting the other inhabitants of the place. They may quickly establish their base in the Traveler's Inn, purchase their equipment, and then visit the tavern, where they may gather bits of information for their coming adventures. All this play, as well as what will come afterwards, requires the players to play the personalities of the characters that they will have throughout the length of the campaign. Much like actors playing a role in a play, you, however, have far greater challenge and obligation. Sorry, they put an I
Obligation.
had to. You not only must order and create the world, you must also play the part of each and every creature that the player characters encounter, which can get a little encumbering, and you can get tired really quick doing this because
Yeah.
here we go as an example. You must be the gate guard, a merchant innkeeper, an orc oracle, and a madman as the situation dictates. The role of DM is all powerful, but it also makes many demands. It is difficult to properly play the village idiot at one moment and the wise man the next. The noble clergyman on the other hand, and the vile monster on the other. In one role, you must be cooperative, in the next, uncaring and non-committal. That's Joaquin. Then foolish, then clever, and so on. Oh, that's me. Be prepared. All
Dun,
right.
dun, dun.
Adding details to your adventure.
Ooh, look at those little dobbies. I
Yep.
mean goblins.
Whether the first time you play or the next, the players will set forth to find and explore the many caves of chaos. You must describe the journey to place and what the characters see and allow them to choose how they will go about adventuring. In such situations, the DM must be truly disinterested party. Be a disinterested party, giving information as required by questioning and proper action, but neither helping nor hindering otherwise, which is really hard to do when you're a DM. When the player experiences their first encounter with a monster, you must be ready to play the part fully. If the monster is basically unintelligent, you must have it act accordingly. Make the encounter exciting with the proper dramatic animal sword, including noise. If the encounter is with an intelligent monster, it's up to the DM to not only provide an exciting description, but also to correctly act the part of the monster. Rats, for instance, will swarm, chittering from their burrows, a wave of lice rich in hunger, seeking to overthrow the adventurers with sheer numbers, but easily driven
Burn 'em
off,
all.
squealing with blows and fire. Goblins, on the
Okay.
other hand, will skulk and hide in order to ambush and trap the party, fleeing from more powerful foes, but always ready to set a new snare for an unwary character. That means whoever's watching, whoever's got the watch for the night, be careful. Careful.
Watch out.
So, and finally, final words of encouragement. If all of this seems too difficult, never fear. For the DM, for Dungeon Master from Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, always looking down on you and smiling. Okay, just remember that, people. Just as your players are learning and gaining experience as D&D play, so too will be improving your ability as a DM. The work necessary to become a great master at the art is great, far greater than is necessary to be a top player, but the rewards are even greater. You will bring untold enjoyment to many players in your role as a DM, and all the while you have the opportunity to exercise your imagination and create abilities to the fullest. May each of your dungeon adventures episodes always be a wonderful I'd like that part right there.
Mhm.
Giving the DMs, letting them know that it's okay for you to make mistakes, and as the players learn the game, you're learning to be a dungeon master. So don't sweat it.
Right?
All right, the wrap up.
I'll be watching that Monster Manual book,
Hmm?
making sure you're doing the right amount of damage.
Oh my God, that's the last video. So part two is how to be an effective dungeon master. So right away, when you get the adventure and you read B2, you have these notes, which I think are very helpful for new DMs and for like old dogs like Eric and I to be like, oh, that's right. Maybe I should incorporate a little bit of that. Um, so the next video, like I said, how to be an effective dungeon master. And then I'm going to combine time and dividing treasure and computing experience. Actually, I think I might. No, I'm gonna read it just because it was part of the adventure. But we don't do treasure anymore as X. And then the next video after that is preparation for the use of this module. Then there's and then that's the last video that Eric's gonna be with me because we're actually gonna play this.
You don't know.
So all right. So
Don't know,
what
mister.
do you think of the notes for the DM, especially for a new DM
I
to
like
read
it,
that?
man. They like I like it because it doesn't give just notes for the specific module, just more for running adventures. These notes could be used with any adventure. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So they're more just like tips for DMs in general, as opposed to that specific venture.
Yeah, and they
So
do.
in that sense, I like it.
Yeah, and they do the same thing with I'm like skimming through like how to be effective dungeon master. And
Mhm.
then they give another
It
part
makes
where
it
it's like
makes me wonder though if they were just doing that for filler or what.
I don't think so. I really don't because
Yeah.
once you bought the basic set, you or if you just picked up this adventure, you could just run this adventure because remember this is you didn't need the monster manual in a lot of the old school first edition adventures because they had
Mhm.
all the stats in there for you. Still
Did
with me?
really? They had stat blocks in the original one?
I'm sorry, what?
I said they really had them in there? They had stat
Yeah,
blocks already in?
yeah, that was what's so cool
No.
about the first edition. Like they even gave you stats like I'm gonna look at the tavern. Dexterity 13, armor class 9, level 0, hit point 6. So they
Oh,
give you
okay,
that in
yes, they
case some
did, because I
fool wants
remember
to
them.
attack them.
Yeah,
Uh
I remember that in Temple Elemental Evil too,
yep. Kobolds, guards, Dex 6 13, just in case that's,
in Kobolds.
relevant. Armor class 7, hit dice half, hit points 3 each. That's the reason why combat's so long in 5e, man. Everybody's got like all these crazy amount of hit points. But the reality is when you fought 6 kobolds, if you hit one, you killed one.
Yeah.
And they hit you twice, they killed you. That's why
That's
kobold
why
was
a lot of times I won't go with monsters that have big amounts of hit points.
yep.
I'll go with a dozen goblins.
Yeah. So,
Because
these are like little
quantity
fun
is a
encounters.
quality all its own.
So that's what they had. And so this is part 1. And then when I get to the point where Eric's no longer gonna be part of the video, I'm
You know
just
I'm
gonna.
gonna watch those videos, right?
I know, but I already thought about that. Well, it doesn't matter because no matter what, I'm starting with the I'm starting off with the keep, so I'm just gonna be building all
Yeah.
the
I mean, if there's
NPCs.
videos you don't want me to watch, just let me know. I was just messing around.
Whatever. I know you're gonna watch it.
Watch them, be like, wait, you can't do that.
I'll just
The
be
book
like
says
this.
you can't.
I'll be like, "You're in this room. What do you do?" And then Eric waits after a few people. He's like, "I go to this wall. Which wall? This wall over here on the west." And what are you doing?
3 inches,
I'm searching for
3 inches
secret
from the left.
doors. And I rolled success. What do I find? A wall.
Like, that's
Like,
not what you said in the video, Joaquin.
yep. It'd be like, and then I'm like, yeah, if you go check the south, as I adjusted the
Right?
map.
You get minus XP.
I hope you're not playing a cleric because you're not getting a spell this session.
Yeah, my god is gonna say no. You don't get a spell, you filthy cheater.
Yep. So, yeah, this is actually a short video. This is gonna be under 30 minutes for us. I hope you guys made it this far. Hit the like button. Leave a comment below. Eric and I would love to hear from you guys because any comment you guys do leave, I do hit him up with a text and be like, "Hey, so and so left a comment, so you can get." Um, yeah, I just look at this, and then I went back to 5e, and I'm looking at some of the adventures, and they don't give you any of these tips, and I just feel like
No, their DM tips are more aimed towards the module in hand. There's so much out there for beginning dungeon masters that they don't really waste pages for that kind of stuff.
I know, but I kind of wish they did in a sense. Just
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about an age where we didn't have the internet, we didn't have everything instant access. Now you could go online and find a dozen different, you know, dozen different DM tip kind of things at a push of a button.
which is
Times change.
why you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you always know when we drop a video. And you go to my playlist, and we cover a lot of these topics. All right, so we're going to end this video super short so Dallas can tell Eric, good job. Last words go to you.
I'm looking forward to this
Yeah,
one.
this is pretty interesting. I like this. This is pretty fun. All right, people. Hope you enjoyed this video, and catch you later.